Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Poetry Project. I like this small, intimate room. My name is Mirene Arsanios. I'm the program director here, and I'm extremely excited tonight to welcome Daisy Atterbury and Betsy Fagin. Welcome to both of you. Before we begin, I have a couple of announcements. I'll start with our upcoming events. So on Monday, we have Dylan Robinson and Chloe Alexandra Thompson. On Wednesday, we have an event titled Writing Against Rent with Tracy Rosenthal. And the next Monday, on April 7th, we have Dina Abdulhadi and Farah Barkawi. And this will be our second ESB reading of the season, and I invite you all to join us. I also wanted to announce our spring workshops. They're out, and they're all super exciting. So we have Sol Cabrini offering a workshop called Counterinsurgent Grammar, Poetics, Nationalism, and Black Feminist Performance. We have a deep study session with Haytham El-Wardani on metonymy. We have a session on sampling and remixing one's archive with Janice A. Lowe. This is more of an interdisciplinary workshop. And we have a translation workshop with Marupa Bon and Yasmin Seal on opacity and transparency. So I invite you all to check out our workshops this spring, and there are also scholarships available. I think the deadline to apply for scholarships is April 10th or 11th. Okay, I think that's it for announcements. Logistics, there are two all-gender bathrooms, one on the first floor, an accessible bathroom on the ground floor. If you need to get there, just let me or anyone else on staff know, and we'll happily escort you there. And what else? There are two beautiful books for sale. Fires, Scenes from Space, and The Carmen Line, and I invite you all to get a copy if you haven't gotten one yet. I'm also excited of how these two books will be in conversation tonight. Okay, I think that's it for announcements. So Daisy will read first, and then Betsy will read second, and we won't take a break. Okay. So I will introduce Daisy, and also I wanted to thank Anna Gurton-Wachter for accepting the invitation also to introduce Betsy tonight. Okay. I will find this Google Doc. Okay. So I will start with Daisy's bio. Daisy Atterbury is a poet, essayist, and scholar. The Carmen Line, a St. Lawrence Book Award finalist and debut book of experimental prose and poetry, was published by Rescue Press in October 2024. Described as a new cosmology and a cerebral altar to the desert, the Carmen Line investigates queer life and fantasies of space and place with an interest in unraveling colonial narratives in the American Southwest. Atterbury is the director of undergraduate studies in American Studies and holds a full-time joint lectureship in American Studies and Women, Gender, and Sexuality Studies at the University of New Mexico. Space is dense with belief. Territories, colonies, settlements, nation-states are all imbued with material and psychic investment. Fantasies of conquest and domination fueling capital's expansionist drive. At the very edge of our planet, the Carmen Line separates the atmosphere from outer space, a zone where particles disperse and gravity gradually fades into its opposite. Above it, space is free, unassigned. Below it, the logic of national sovereignty prevails. In a book named after this liminal orbit, Daisy Atterbury shows us that spatial imaginaries are sites of struggle, that frontiers are fragile, made of thin, vanishing air, Otherwise, why would so many resources be needed to keep them in place? With the desiring body, Daisy grapples with proximity and separation. They layer the lyrical self with what's external to it. Sediments of history, money, toxic waste, ashes from burning forests. We, you, are inseparable from the social whole, from the sky and the rain. Radiation is all around us, Daisy writes. Speaking from the edge of its own undoing, the self in the Carmen line becomes a site for queer relation, for sexting on a dating app, yelping a review of the Rocket Inn, a motel located in Truth and Consequences, the city closest to Spaceport America's rocket launch facility. Genre in Daisy's writing is also a question of distance. Poetry brings a bare chest up close, history lies in documents. By shifting between different modes of writing, Daisy makes the distance between them softer, almost intimate. Quote, I persist in autobiography, they write, in the prose that struggles with its own limits, resisting both self-containment and its opposite, fantasies of oneness, of a redemptive outside. But I don't know how to meet outside of outside, they write. When writing intros, I remain inside the genre. I want to talk about the work, not the person. But in this case, I'd be betraying the invitation of Daisy's book. Who I loved, who I talked to, where I see myself, these things matter, they write. Daisy matters to me. They're one of the first poets I've met when I landed in this country 10 years ago. Through them and through our cohort at Bard, many of whom are here tonight, I learned the sociality of the poet by learning that literary experimentation can never be divorced from political stakes. There is no then and now, but in this particular time and space, the Carmen line gives us a sense of altered gravity. Not exactly like walking on the moon, more like orbiting in space, away from fantasies of extraterrestrial colonization. An anti-Teslaic project inviting us to think with history against stars whose light has yet to reach us. Please join me in welcoming Daisy Atterbury.
Hello. Thank you so much, Mirene. That was very beautiful. Thank you to the Poetry Project. You matter to me, too. I'm honored to be here. I'm really happy to be back. I think I've got it. I'm like very tall. It's inconvenient. Hello. Okay. I'm very happy to be back. It's been a long time since I've been here in this particular space. And I will be reading from this book, but also start out by reading a little bit from some new work. Hold on. Thank you. I think I have to do this. Okay. Is that good? Okay. I should know how to do this by now. Okay. This is a new piece that I've been working on. It's called The Psychogeography of the Desert. It sort of picks up where this book, The Carmen Line, leaves off. So going backwards a little bit, and then I'll read from the book. The desert. It was dark. The creature crept toward the bunker. All was dim. Dust in the air prevented the creature from seeing the placard. The creature could barely make out the insignia on the front of the placard. Does it make sense to speak of the creature's present as our future? To the creature, the present was the present, and we were irrelevant to the creature. Before the creature's time, the southwestern US was already constructed by layered histories of elsewhere resisting mappability. Like the desert, which Samia Heni notes stands in for a complex locus of imageries, imaginaries, climates, landscapes, space, and histories, the creature's surround, now and then, was narrated by national discourses of the American West. The creature's surround was produced through spatial imaginaries that maintained dominant national histories, all forgotten. The territories of both hot and cold deserts embody various forms of anthropogenic exploitation, such as resource extraction and civil and military occupation, which was all true at one time. Also true was that among the most common platitudes about the desert were ideas that deserts are empty. Then, those military-industrial restructurings of the desert were justified by the desert's imagined emptiness. Now, the desert's psychogeographic landscape could be described according to the experiences of the creature. The desert still wasn't empty. Despite the dust obfuscating its main source of sunlight, the creature was there. To speak of the creature was to speak of a life force produced in and through what were once nuclear colonial regimes. The creature was created in the imaginary of the very scientists who made the creature necessary. Because the scientists needed to invent the creature needed to exist. It may be important to note that the creature didn't know about the scientists. The creature didn't know how they buried transuranic waste in the waste isolation pilot program near what was once Carlsbad, New Mexico, nor how they mapped out transportation schemas to carefully transport radioactive detritus from the nuclear production labs up north to the salt caves down south. Nor did the creature know that, anticipating the existence of the creature, the scientists hired linguists to produce pictograms to depict the radioactivity of the site for future humans. The creature didn't know about the scientists. By the time of the creature, the scientists were all dead. And that's the beginning of this new piece I'm working on. Sort of picks up in the desert landscape where I've situated us in the Kármán line. So it feels a bit incongruous to be reading about the desert here. I invite you all to sort of join me there. The title of this book takes its name from the official international border that designates the boundary between the Earth and space. So the Kármán line, it's a mathematical calculation that was calculated that designates the upper limit of national boundaries, beyond which is free space. Stars arrive non-visually first, Meme Bersenbrugge, a blue orbit suggested by echoes, Tommy Pico. Below this line, space belongs to each country. Above this level, there would be free space, Theodore von Kármán. The Kármán line. They say no love deserves the death it has. Fuck. I see about the loss of you before we even begin. I've never been satisfied with the imagined end. She said, this class discussion is the best so far. However, sex is an inhibiting topic. What it means to deplane. The Kármán line is the altitude at which the Earth's atmosphere ends and outer space begins. The Kármán line is the edge of space, as opposed to near space, the high altitude region of the atmosphere. When they say altitude, they're thinking in terms of the human, what is measurable from the ground. Beyond the Kármán line, the Earth's atmosphere is too thin to support an object in flight. A plane at that height would have to travel faster than orbital velocity to remain in the air. Space begins as determined by math and the practicality of actually being somewhere. I was once, I'm here, at the surface, out of order. Poets do it. This imperial poesy, point at it, its killing mesh. Word being both administration against memory and the means. At first, it's an inch, then it's a couple inches, then it's a couple feet. She will reach the Kármán line. It's lonely up here at the shell of the earth and cold. Zones of avoidance. I read the headline that astronomers have recently discovered a vast assemblage of galaxies hidden behind our own in what they call the zone of avoidance. I ignore an astronomer who super likes me on Tinder. Beyond the Milky Way, a galactic wall. I wonder if she's picked up that I love the stars in a moody, non-scientific way. I wonder if I'm scared someone will reduce my life to math, if I fear I'll meet my match and will exist in the world computationally, compositionally. There is a vast wall across the southern border of the local cosmos. I do, in fact, want to know about this with my body. The thousands of new galaxies described in the New York Crimes using Earth metaphors like beehives of trillions of stars and dark worlds, and a curtain arcing across at least 700 million light years of space. I press my hands to my eyes, the better to see bees bursting, exploding bees taking a bow, the man behind the curtain naked in genderless stardust drapes. Is the language of science a zone of contagion where metaphor bleeds into metaphor because reality is so far outside the language we've reserved for it, we almost glitch? I attach some sanctity of thinking to our exchanges because I think you've taught me how to think. I've aligned thinking with some ecstasy of relation possible only through this exchange and thus confined to it, a thinking provoked and then possessed by another in service of a togetherness. When my possession ends, there is another form it takes, I think, which is thinking corroded by loss. It's probably that thought as narrative produces some chemical release that has me doubled over the toilet, seeing stars. People talk about radical softness. Hard elements become the catastrophic aftermath of the merger of dense cores of stars, left after star death. The Mohs hardness scale's gradation ranges from talc to diamond, the between occupied by gems like topaz, apatite, and fluorite, hydrogen, helium, and lithium, the universe's three lightest elements, were created earliest in the birth of the cosmos, while heavier elements were forged billions of years later in the dense cores of stars. I try to describe contact past my galaxy's zone of avoidance, the place I find myself with nothing to lose, and every bone in my body healed like a hardened jewel. I build my language with rocks. Hardness is a spectrum. I linger with the idea of an aesthetics of gleaming, which is not to say not chaos. It's a place where thought is disorder, where there are fresh sheets. Some larger majority of the investigations go unanswered, someone writes in the app. Instigations, she corrects. I don't think I answer. I'm going to read a few poems. This book is truly hybrid in the sense that it kind of goes back and forth. I also appreciate you all being here. I had this thought that I'm coming from New Mexico, and I teach in women and gender studies, and the time we're in now, we received like a whole pamphlet of banned words, and I thought, should I just be reading those? But maybe we will just be reading around those words for the next several infinite time. You can't rely on structure. These folded matchbooks. I take one greased packet of fire sauce. This makes a very large salsa verde, 10 calories. The way you discovered money, you pissed me off. When we touched, I sort of peeled back, a paint strip falling from the pole. But we keep contact. I muscle myself into a tight shirt, press my face against a glass pane, make notes towards future health, wondering if the problem is lack of calories or ritual lack, dry as a bone and full of vacancies. The cost of a cold beer near a lot. Let's see, the cost is stupid is what it is. Millennial decay, my face, starting to reflect the landscape. I take on a cinder block aesthetic, mostly behind the eyes. We're burning more cortisol for the same tank. In space, there's a tiny house, isn't there? Not a bill someone forgot. It hits home, this place you call space. The last place I forgot, you can scratch the lotto, win nothing but your neighbor. Sunday said he tried last week. A kind of formal feeling, saturated, sweet. The erotics of a hand rolling up and down jeans rhythmically, caught in a breath. I feel terse today. My paycheck feels like single ply. I email a person late. I keep idioms for memos, keep a drawer, keep lists of luxuries, little pleasures, walnuts in sauce, the loud fan of work at night. Not today, she said, hung over from sound, beating on the brow. We want it all, so relatable that, yes, I wanted. Filling the living room or shopping at Smith's. The way void isn't absent of yearning. The way frozen food holds potential. The way paranoid thoughts might still substantiate, they said. Come align yourself with splinters. Come be inlaid. My irritant, my pain in the ass life, my bad, brief stint of lingering outside your driveway, wanting you in a wig, wanting you on stilts, in someone else's automatic drive truck, or on your porch in a different season, a little colder, a little wetter, a little unlike what's been good for me. I look up wanting for, mid-1600s in most early languages, including Norse. I'm not without withouts, but not without bearings. Not entirely sure why, in the context of water dripped all over my floor in the mornings, drinking coffee dripping, I'm pressing a space bar dripping. This winter long and full of capital S secrets, little bows over silences, hot poppers in a driveway all to myself. Things that, if spoken, would mire us all in action. I fly to the Kármán line. I determine it's a lie. Capital flows across boundaries. Labor does it in secret. Here, a toothbrush caught at the border. The Kármán line may well floss teeth. I think I'm going to end with this last poem. Very excited to hear Betsy read and appreciate you all being here. Thank you so much to the Poetry Project. Is it a meeting? Or is it exposure therapy? Is it a meeting? Or is it a sentence? Is it a meeting? Or is it a soapbox? Is it a meeting? Or is it holy and free futures? Is it a meeting? Or is it these birds of paradise? Is it a meeting? Or did I leave something unsaid? Is it a meeting? Or is it my full disclosure? Is it a meeting? Or were we too far gone? Is it a meeting? Or can't you smoke in here? Is it a meeting? Or is it my silences? Is it a meeting? Or is it the turn away? Or is it some kind of dance? Is it a party? Or is it free and unholy futures? I split the difference, measured 17 minutes, the express going local against 17 minutes wait for the express. Either way does the work of, is it a meeting? Or am I crazy? Did I see some kind of light? Is it a meeting? Did we meet another time? I can't remember the difference between knowing and seeing you from a distance. Measure the gaps in my refusals every time. I put one foot in front. I lost time. I see it differently now. Injured? Later, they walked, met with no consequence, while the whole world watched and waited and spoke against waiting. The sun set, and it was later. I trudged through cold and flu season, covered my nose and mouth. I washed my hands often with soap and water. How we assign blame, how we don't. That's it. Thank you all so much. And please welcome Betsy Fagin and Anna Gurton-Wachter to introduce her.
Thank you, Daisy. That was so beautiful. I will now turn it over to Anna, who will introduce Betsy. Thank you.
Daisy, that was really great. Really looking forward to reading the book. I'm so excited to be here. Wow. All right, I'm going to get right into it. Y'all can hear me, right? The other night, my almost 4-year-old woke me up at 3 a.m., and when I asked him why he was waking me, he said, "To make sure you aren't lost." I keep thinking about his words to me and how lately we all seem more than a little lost, having been led astray by too many forces at once. Can you even be lost in a lost world? Enter Betsy Fagin, whose bio alerts us that in addition to all of her many accomplishments, she also works to help people navigate complexity. To sum up some of the complexities Fagin takes on in her newest collection, Fires Seen from Space, Jacob Kahn tells us, these poems weave threads from movements against bank and state violence for reproductive justice and climate rebellion into a dense tapestry of inter- and intra-planetary Afrofuturist anti-imperialism, which drafts kite-like as an attention to living. I love how this laundry list of threats lands us at this deceptively simple word, attention. Attention as work to make transformative structural changes. Attention as noticing when we step back and see from above, we are miles from where any of us truly want to be. I first encountered Fagin's work when her book, All Is Not Lost, was just out from Belladonna Collaborative about 10 years ago, and everyone was abuzz with excitement for it. It is interesting to think of now how those two book titles, All Is Not Lost and Fires Seen from Space, seem to be speaking to each other, concerned with the silos of individuality that we have been tricked into inhabiting. Fagin has the guts to keep pointing out it doesn't have to be this way. In Letters to the Future, Black Women Radical Writing, Erica Hunt writes that in Fagin's work we are given spaces of possibility, a gift of free choice to follow passion irrespective of the market, and an alternative means to map a place. Fagin is a kind of detective following clues to alternative ways of living. As Stacy Smazik so deftly says in her blurb for Fires, only an imagination so deeply grounded in the body can be free enough to imagine such new and spacious forms of autonomy. A few years ago, in this very room, I was taking Betsy's Poetry Project workshop, and we had gathered in person to discuss the intersections of meditation and writing. I expressed a concern that I was having to the group, that once I had left a writing session, I would no longer be able to return to the feeling and energy that created those words again. The vibe would be off if I couldn't re-enter the same state that I was in the last time I had written. Other people in the workshop nodded, seeming to know what I was describing. But Betsy Fagin, our fearless leader, looked confused and said something along the lines of, "Why would you want to be the same every time? Isn't it beautiful that we can change and grow and are never exactly the same from moment to moment?" Since then, I have thought of this moment every single time I sit down to write. In her own work, Fagin harnesses this knowingness, the confident power that works against unnecessary nostalgia and against holding on to the negative to whisk us forward in her poems. It was with this moment in mind that I read these lines of Fagin's poetry. She writes, "I don't personally future, but support some dancing again, something with enjoyment, something splendid, something dear." I read in these lines something like, "I can't go on, I'll go on." Something like, "I can't say I'm foolish enough to have optimism, but I do have optimism. We persist." And then later she writes, "As surely as this now adventure unfolds," reminding us to stay present inside the poem and in openness paired with seriousness, reminding us that each now will always be new. It is fitting then that her new blog is titled "Tomorrow Never Happens," and on it she says that she is building capacity to be with what is. I can't think of a harder and more beautiful project to embark upon. Please join me in welcoming Betsy Fagin.
Thank you. Is this working for people? Okay. I'm glad. That was a lot of intro. Thank you. It's a hard time to read, and also it's a wonderful time to be able to read. And I really appreciate everybody coming out and being able to share space in this way. So I spent a lot of time trying to organize the reading and plan it all out and practice everything. And then, are there any astrology nerds here? All right, so some of us know about this portal that we're in and the chaos. Everyone feels a little chaos right now, yeah. Okay, so I had a reading recently, and the astrologer suggested that I look back 12 years and see what was going on at that time. And I found that there were a lot of early versions of the poems that are in this book. So I'm going to read some of those earlier versions, and for me, it's like a game. Maybe you can hear some of this stuff as it moves through 12 years of editing. So I'm going to start out with some older stuff and then read some stuff from the book. Protect becomes smother. End of the month. Tacked up oilcloth differentiates clothing swaps from rent parties. I grieve the loss of the future I thought we'd be having by now. Let down, divided, apoplectic inflatables, yellow like the sun. Unreason triumphs statistically, sanitizes a labyrinth of the heart for transparency. Also, my voice is a little funky. I'm sort of losing my voice. So if it does cut out, somebody in the back, wave, please. You're just being separatist, which is making everyone else feel bad. Bystander effect. Crowned with fire to turn more unbelievable. A history of the world with no cameras. Nothing for you without you. A virus storm tendency to walk up dead-end streets. Everything fear and worry under these conditions. I'm trying to stay open, guided by rock, stars, something to stop overthink, some faith in unseen forces, or just reassurance of normalcy, I guess. Cool. All heat to ice, spilled pots of fake treasure, and something memory book, sentimental, everyone wearing the same t-shirt to remember the good times when they're gone. How close when alone, beauty and the toxic mimic that's since taken over. I'm so in love at everyone, composure completely gone, fondling in alleyways under bridges in the rain, needing to just get a room. Resistance is beautiful. An investment in darkness is never neutral. I need a drink. Black Moon Lilith moved into Scorpio today. I have this, yeah. An investment in darkness is never neutral. Whispered chants explore, perpetual explore, what feels so beautiful, knowing, alive, in a body, what feels good. I'm so into whatever it is we're doing together, close in the streets, threat model of rising juices, all things flow into their shapes. The innate spirit manifests destruction of old forms and enduring. I thought I'd be dead already. Practice taking the streets. Practice makes perfectly empowered flesh, muscled voice to speak in being. I brick that window to preemptively survive and thrive. We may or may not shut down bridges, luminous with our lovers and children. I'm sorry if it hurts. Shit hurts sometimes. I found this whole thing called active denial, which I think is great. I'm going to have to work on it. But here's some of it. A masterpiece of need keeps giving shards of jasmine excuses, forgotten peace. I don't usually whisper to the sun on my face. I think one of the things that happened is like all these memes. I started writing poems out of like memes that I kept seeing. So like folks know that like, I don't usually, do people know what I'm talking about, right? Okay, so let's start again. I don't usually whisper to the sun on my face or dragonflies over the avenue, but when I do, there's danger. Walking through the door, breathing fire at having gone too far. Post-consumers' needs, unexamined possibilities, orchestrated a search party. An ocean of ocean, new plastic poppy, glass-bottled Mexican Coke over lemon ice of forgiveness. I know you didn't mean box harding, heavy bass lines, and shadow integrated into liquid sugar structure. And so this is another one, and but it's a really long thing called There's the Door. I don't know if anybody knows that. Do you? No, okay. There's the door. Just let the siren. A woman this time, left behind, cast out to discover surprise solutions in corners at the very back of the room. Far from the spotlight, the message of missing and broken can hurt to hear. Disrupts a sense of order, performative calm. Feels harsh to those unaccustomed to discomfort, uncertainty, ambiguity, hidden behind scripts, adjusting flowers near their ears, left to right, right to left. Maybe she didn't die in childbirth or crash her car into a tree at 100 miles an hour. Children into the freeway after a trail of blood led neighbors to the scene of another domestic dispute. The gloved man, no prints, no evidence, now dead. What if she didn't die but was left to raise the children on the fringes, forgotten? In the darkness may her power grow. Practical magics with ancient technologies made new. Perhaps old stories end with her or with me, that there can be no more evil empire, masked behind shell companies, bureaucrats, and teams of lawyers pantomiming acceptable behavior. Invisible forces controlling narratives. Who gets to say what? Like Oprah's non-opinion on hamburgers. Somebody knows what I'm talking about. Do people know? If you get into a conversation with Oprah Winfrey, try to ask her what she thinks about hamburgers. Someone's pulling strings, the golden threads that connect, unraveling us for our aggravated sexuality and word choice, skin color, use of symbols, flags, and iconography, death by paperwork and frivolous lawsuits, system-enforced silence as though NDAs mean more than the paper they're printed on, trees once. A disconnected silence is not my story. I did not give my consent or accept any of these terms and conditions. I would prefer not to. I would prefer not to go along with any of this. Their stories, themselves heroes, themselves champions or imagined victims. Corporations profit on stories read to children at night, the same as their morning breakfast cereals. Until the lion learns to tell its own story, history will always favor the, what was it? It's not a call and response kind of crowd tonight, you know? So, like, until the lion learns to tell its own story, history will always favor the, yeah. Now it's like a lecture again. History belongs to C-suites, protected by paperwork, armed with infringement, defamation, and a militarized police force to ensure shareholder rights and perpetuity, preventing personal responsibility from befalling the families that have profited for generations and continue to profit, forever profit, like history was so very long ago, in black and white, not happening right now, not what got boxed up and sent to the archive when there was one. Papers and boxes are trees, once were. Just as the land and its people, even the old king, are all one. All are one. The land, its people, as landscape and languages, we are disappeared completely. Rivers, extinguished, extinct, reveal hunger-stone bewilderment. Even my grief is wrapped in plastic, full of microbeads, and yet this body is an earth body, self-shattered from the enormity of pain, falls away. Fear not. This may be the best thing that ever happened. Broken open into listening, into refuge. I heard on the street that the land and the old king are one. It has ever been so. This self-appointed king is rabid, unbalanced. Let's show him the door. Pass through to share and support, protect, inspire. A strange heart's hoard, not nourish. Violence, betrayal, and coercion with billions of pounds of cheese hidden in caves in Missouri and stuffed crust pizza campaigns to bolster their beloved economies. That was like 12 years ago. So, now I'm going to read from the book. And I'm new to putting notes in books, so sometimes don't really provide context for my writing because I feel like people are going to bring to it whatever they bring, and it'll be meaningful in that way. So I feel like it doesn't matter what it means to me, but then sometimes it does kind of matter to me. So in this book, there's a section called Movement Theory. And there are a lot of poems about going to Mars. And that means different things to different people. And one thing I haven't heard anybody mention about it is the connect to Nikki Giovanni. So I just wanted to bring that into the space and people can hear that there's something happening there. I forgot to put it in the notes. This is going to Mars for a better view. Tasting disrespect ground into soil to aerate the mud of living waters, witness our animal-owed hearts. Squat gods, their repossessed cathedrals and fortresses shot through graveland, leaving only rubbled sense of escape, of ancestors, homelands. Self-representing nations making up flags and theme songs, anthems. Sequined sky mirrors a watercourse way, plowed fields scorched, grown resistant. To divine and center. Help reconstruct insistent meaning. Mutual dreaming binds as expanse to contract, unpredictably adaptable, structuring moment by moment from hypothetical past and imagined black futures, full to overflowing with peace and ease. Swallows warned me about the threats to my life. Severity retrained into restrained chaos, able to hold discomfort and compulsion with necessary care, reduced to spare change this complex, fragile kernel of acceptance. And I don't really wear a watch, and I forgot to set my timer. So I did time the reading, but I didn't time me like jabbering at people. So I'm gonna jump to another going to Mars in pieces. Offering our components at the shrine, giving up for blessing outdated structures, left like starfish, our bones now vapor, desiccated monuments, crystal rock salt for teeth, all constructs abandoned. Our wasp world edification, a balloon at the waterhole, all lost plagues, infectious ones. My toil plow stewardship hoard back at emperors' fallen columns, newly signed into regulation. Mystery theory, earth mound. An inability to truly remember pain, lost all ways of seeing, dragon bones stripped in the spirit world, death-thick air. The opposite of form is always anchored, not emptiness. Burial grounds, haunted mansions, streets, laced fenders, white strollers, memorial bicycles. The hole they dug for us with a fountain to draw us down. Is this reverence, or is it a trap, a mirrored box filled with honey? Latent root. Frozen lies still pray for us if you believe in planting synthetic trees. Carbon suck our drugged waterways, moss wall. Don't say no one noticed or no one tried. Blasphemy is only for believers. So many jokes in this book, but they're like jokes to myself, so I go, oh, ha ha, but nobody else like gets it. Yeah, so we have everything we need. It's so funny. It's so funny. Okay. Desperate hours. So there are a lot of like Star Wars jokes in this section. That's a Leia line. We have everything we need. Just whatever. However you receive it, to me it's funny. Desperate hours. You know, Star Wars, like, this is our most desperate. All right. So, unbound, revolving, most deliveries arrive safely, tempering twilight and dawn. Must retrieve know-how for this system, memory of rebellion, survivalist vitality. Information access has failed, offering only overwhelm, not inspiration. My fear and I attack. Requests for my presence is still alive against all rule. Candles consulted an interior universe. I am regret, struggle, bare teeth to the horrors of a half-known life, no touch, torments, believing myself broken, too poor to rebuild, the you of me as affirmation. Backwater planet. Seed threats model desire just as twin suns. We are close to rising juices, innate spirit half hidden in the smoke. Destruction of old forms while enduring the deepest, most open, radiant spaces. Thought I'd be dead by now, postponed, not canceled. Survivor syndrome, practicing at empowered flesh. Pretending a voice to speak in, light-hearted, and brick that window to survive and thrive. Unguarded moments within the 5 fires, some kindness for our broken hearts. The new day announced, even here, rewiring suffering. What tulips once were. Don't be afraid to act alone. Paper ruled all of life, a lasting peace that resources the comportment body. Morning risen to recognize coherence in the face, internalized protocol, convinced of it with seeing eyes, more than what is beautiful, summoned by fragile demand, sat down in the corner with the rest of the timed out city. Excruciatingly slow to transition to girl or woman, fin to fly, rock dove from red brick to dizzying heights of tar beach flocking, flown, knowing much more than what's seen with conviction. A piece of paper can ruin lives. Act natural and notify supervisors. Their information charts and database, not truth, just urgent, just vital, pairs well with basic survival fears, sleeping with desperate spreadsheets and a need-to-know basis. What worth pledged as unity when we, many, one, keep the memory of systems generating understanding, way worse than stick, rock, throw, this essential service. I think there's one more of these. Wherever you are. Springtails hiding in leaf folds know pure wisdom. True if you believe it's true, as all organizing principles, magnetism, nourishment. Of the 5 stars, 15 Saturns, 9 vehicles left, you had to stumble into mine. We didn't come into this world, we came out of it. Emerging whole as soothing water's quiet care. There might be a good way to live. Footprints in sand hint at this promise, stillness just beneath the noise. Mossy stream bench is leisurely paced. Reborn into a wasted world. Sound is sound in silence, perfectly fused. The most elusive, inmost mysteries. And the last bunch I want to read from the Resistance is Beautiful poems that are appropriate. And part of the intention behind them is to just think about all the different ways that resistance can manifest and all the different ways it can look. Resistance in the earth. Longing for leftover time, a full malachite life in the mountains near red waters down from the skies as lightning driven into the earth, filling the mountain as well as the valley below. Untold riches, name drop that, white gold that with your diamonds and sapphires, platinum every day with copper water speech in the form of 7 metals, including the knife in your back. That's good steel. Resistance is beautiful. This room just needs people, people everywhere, breathing in full, out full. Rain break bridges through smashed glass alleyways of foundling love or crossed rivers. From forever's fake treasure pots of never lost and want spilled out leaf-carpeted invitations to old absinthe rooftop parties, hand-delivered unseen blessings scrawled in overthink. Resistance, given teeth in order to attack. Renounced panic for waterlogged tenderness aloft across campaigns. No rosewater, no violets, only vapors of diligence. Initiative corroded this waning world. Connect our allies, align ourselves with enchanted darkness, focused on our own preservation, like the innermost citadel. Network forces vast, unhinged, agile in the honeyhead to allow the most strategic of all recorded histories. Believing I am broken, rippling out clear of dust and conceit, focused as any mountain spring to the ocean, rised up to rebuild, to temper twilight and dawn, thunderbolts against all external rule. Two more. Resistance, gorse. It just makes me laugh. I'm sorry. Gorse is so funny. It's an invasive, so like people know about invasive plants and how hard people have to fight invasives. To me, it's funny. Resistance, gorse. Kudzu stranglehold without permission or forgiveness. Wild mountain honey downs tools, a well change, our best feats charged with light. Manzanilla can't sleepwalk the floors for rivers. Chicory schemes daily along Redwood Highway. Collect it, compel world floating on our backs. Who profits the ground wild world uplifted? This time becomes us. And this is the last one. Not for nothing. Right? It is funny. Thank you. Not for nothing. I am slow to cross earthbound. Carried coast well wicked shallow dream laws, crowed hero and murderer. Liars and cheats infect the earth body's rough wheel. Seeking an indestructible heart. Break from annihilation, from everything sin or forever river, and surely I am perfecting the laws of air and water, a river from which many can drink. Life cannot be stopped. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Betsy. That was a beautiful note to end on. Thank you so much, Daisy, as well, and Anna for your beautiful introduction. And thank you all for coming. I hope to see you soon again at the Poetry Project. Thank you.